Copywriting is by far one of the most valuable skills that I've learned over the last several years. I've been studying some of the greatest copywriters and also implementing their strategies across all the ad accounts I've been managing. And in this video, I'm gonna distill all the most valuable things that I've learned in a 1-hour training. So get your pen and paper ready because this is gonna be the most valuable video that you watch today. I guarantee it. So without further ado, let's get into it. What's up, everyone, and welcome to my copywriting crash course. Okay, in this video, my goal is to make you a better copywriter in under an hour. Okay, so I'm going to share with you everything that I've learned through, reading various copywriting books, studying some of the greatest copywriters in the world, and also putting this into practice for the last several years when running ads for clients. So yeah, let's dive right into it, okay? So why should you learn copywriting? What's the point, right? Well, copywriting, what I've realized is it's such an effective tool to getting better results out of your ads, out of your landing pages, and just basically learning how to write in a persuasive way is just going to give you better results. And after studying all this, I realized that the words that you choose and the order that you put the words in can actually make you a lot of money. So depending on what words you choose and what order you put them, they can either make you rich or they can make you poor. And there's actually techniques and strategies and proven methods that you can follow to help make you more money, basically. So when I realized that, it was like an aha moment. I was already a media buyer at the time, and I had been, really focused on the technical side of Meta ads. But then, obviously the Meta platform has started moving more towards the creative side, more towards copywriting. So I decided to dive head first, and I'm going to share with you everything that I learned in 1 hour. So let's get into it. So what is copywriting? What is advertising? I think Eugene M. Schwartz, he sums it up best. Basically, advertising is salesmanship in print. Okay, so let's set some kind of ground rules, basically. Whether we call an ad good or bad is determined by whether it's profitable or not, right? Is it making you money? Is it putting dollars and cents into your bank account? Is it helping you meet your business goals? Okay. If it's not doing those things, then it's not a good ad, right? I want you guys to focus on what matters, and that's, again, dollars and cents. It's not about cost per click or click-through rate or hook rate. These things are important, don't get me wrong, but we can't lose sight of the most important part, which is the ad driving sales? Is the ad profitable? Is the ad growing our business? Okay, so definitely keep that in mind. This is salesmanship, okay? And Claude Hopkins is one of the great advertisers, and he talks about salesmanship, right? So what you can do, like a little framework that you can use when writing your ads, is pretending like you have somebody standing in front of you that is half sold on your product, right? Somebody that is like considering buying whatever you have to sell. What would you say to them, right? What would you say to them? That everything that you would say is what should go into the copy of your ad or into the copy of your landing page. It's super important, and it's a really easy way to think about it, and it really helped me. It's like, okay, if I have somebody that's half sold in front of me, they're almost convinced, like, what would I say? Well, I would tell them all the reasons why it's going to benefit them, all the features that they would care about, all the ways it's going to improve their life, how good of an offer it is, how nobody else is offering such a good guarantee. I would tell them exactly how to buy it and what to expect next. Like, I would make it as easy as possible for them to buy it, right? So that's something to consider. So again, advertising is just salesmanship, but in written form, okay? So the better that you get at copywriting, the better you're going to become as a salesman and vice versa. So now let's start getting into some theory first. I think Eugene Schwartz really puts this best, and I'm actually going to read you an excerpt from his book, Breakthrough Advertising, and I think it's going to help you understand this. So let's read this quickly together. So writing copy is like playing the stock market or being an atomic physicist. Basically, all three of these professions, copywriting, speculation, and science, are exactly alike. The same keys make each one of them work, and if you realize why, you can double the effectiveness of your copy overnight. Consider these facts. All three of them deal with immense natural forces, gargantuan forces thousands of times more powerful than the men who use them. In science, they are the fundamental energies of the universe. In speculation, they are billion-dollar tides and currents of the marketplace. In copywriting, they are the hopes and fears and desires of millions upon millions of men and women all over the world. The men who use these forces did not create them. They can neither turn them on nor shut them off. They can neither diminish nor add to them, but they can harness them. The scientist did not create the energy of the sun, but he can direct that energy into the explosion of an atom bomb. The speculator did not create the enormous growth of the electronics industry after the war, but he can ride that growth to produce a 50 times increase in his capital. And the copywriter does not create the desire of millions of women all over America to lose weight, but he can channel that desire onto a particular product and make its owner a millionaire. Okay, so for me, that was like such an eye-opener, right? We have the market, you can see it here, it's just millions and millions of people, and all these people have hopes, they have fears, and they have desires. And this is not something that we create. We do not create the desire for a product. It already exists in the market. Everything that we need to make a good ad already exists in the market. Okay, so it's so important that you understand that copywriting is us directing those forces, those hopes, those fears, those desires onto your product. Focus that energy like a waterfall. You're directing that energy towards your product. Okay, so that is essentially what copywriting is in a nutshell. Okay. So here's another quote that's super interesting. It says, "The power, the force, the overwhelming urge to own that makes advertising work comes from the market itself and not from the copy. Copy cannot create desire for a product. It can only take the hopes, dreams, fears, and desires that already exist in the hearts of millions of people and focus those already existing desires onto a particular product. This is the copywriter's task, not to create this mass desire, but to channel and direct it. The copywriter in his work uses three tools: his knowledge of people's hopes, dreams, and desires and emotions, his client's product, and the advertising message, which connects the two." Okay, so you can clearly see that depicted here in this slide. So for me, this was like a huge eye-opener. It was such a powerful message, and I hope that resonates with you. So let's move on to now market research. Okay, since we said everything comes from the market, well, that means we have to do our market research, right? Claude Hopkins said it best. He says, guesswork is very expensive. Okay, I feel like advertising marketing is a field where everybody thinks they're an expert, right? But very, very few really are. And there's some people that maybe don't know anything about advertising or copywriting that might get lucky, but it's very hard to repeat that success. But when you understand the techniques and the strategies, the methods, the psychology behind everything, you have a much higher hit rate. You can repeat that success a lot easier, and you won't be guessing, basically. And Claude Hopkins says, as well, as money spending is a serious matter, right? It's it's no joke, right? It's the matter of life or death, if you think about it. It's putting food on your family's table. So we have to take it seriously. We can't just haphazardly copy somebody's work, or just make a headline real quick, or let ChatGPT make whatever on our ads. That's not going to work, right? We need the ad to work, to pay the bills, to make us or our clients money. So that's something that's very important I want to drive home. So don't be lazy, okay? Don't be lazy. Most advertisers in today's day and age are very lazy. And if you just do some of the things we're about to talk about, you're going to be outperforming 90% of people. I'm sure of it, okay? So let's get into it. Market research. So what are we trying to learn when we're doing market research? We're trying to understand the desires and the motivations, the hopes, the fears of our target market. Okay, who are these people? What do they like to do? What products do they like to buy? What do they care about? What type of content do they watch? These questions we have to go out and find the answers to. Now, there's a lot of different reasons why people buy a product, okay? Now, there are certain reasons or angles that will completely outperform others, right? So it's your job as the marketer to find out what those angles are, okay? The next thing that we're trying to uncover is the hesitations and doubts, okay? So what are the various reasons why people would hesitate to buy your product? Why would they hesitate? What doubts do they have? What fears do they have? We need to identify this so that we can introduce risk reversal. We can basically try to minimize these anxieties as much as we can when we're trying to sell our product, okay? So that's hesitations and doubts. Next is competitors, right? What's the competitive landscape? Who are we competing against? What types of ads are they running? What are their longest running ads, right? Is there a specific angle that seems to be working for them, right? These are things that can really help us to get a starting point of how we should be advertising this product. And not only that, we can look at their reviews, we can look at their comments to really mine that data for themes and for pain points and for angles, okay? So super important. Next is the awareness and sophistication of the market. So how much do they know about the market that you're in, right? The products that you're offering. Are they like fully aware of all the options in the market, or are they super unaware of that there are even products that solve the problem that they're trying to solve, right? Or do they even realize they have a problem, right? And then when we talk about sophistication, have they looked into every brand and they've heard every promise under the sun, or are you the first person to market, right? This awareness and the sophistication really dictates how we talk in the ads, right? At what level of detail do we go into? What types of promises are we making? Okay, so very important. Also, you want to learn about the customers. Again, what type of content do they watch? What do they like to do? What do they look like? What do they do on the weekends? Stuff like that, right? What do they wear? How do they speak? So when we learn this, we can start to input this into our ads, right? We can make ads that people would identify with. They immediately see themselves in the ad, right? And that's so crucial because you're more likely to buy something if you identify with it. Okay, so this will help dictate like what goes in the ad, what goes in the UGC video, what setting are we in, what are they saying, how are they speaking. These are very subtle things, but they're super, super important, and they can dramatically improve the results of your ads. All right, so generally, that's what we're trying to learn with our market research. And inside the group, if you go to Classroom and then Resources, I have a practical market research guide in here for you. So let me just show you that real quick. So here it is, Classroom, Resources, Practical Market Research Guide. So you can use this as your guide, right? Answer these questions, fill it out like a questionnaire, and you will be heading in the right direction as far as market research. Okay. So next, where do we look for this information? You can look at your competitors' ads, right? Look at their longest running ads. That's a very useful place to look. You can look at their ad comments. You can look at their organic comments. You can look at their reviews, their Trustpilot, their Google reviews. If they're on Amazon, you can look at their Amazon reviews. Super important, because this is going to tell you all this information that we're looking for. Then you can look at your own comments, your own reviews, right? You start to pick up pain points and reasons why, angles, hesitations, doubts that they may have had. You may get, even the bad feedback is good, right? You can learn how to improve your product. So all these things are very, very important. Scour the internet as if you were a buyer of this product. Like go on Amazon, YouTube, Reddit, Quora, Facebook groups, Twitter, use ChatGPT. Deep research is a very powerful tool that you can use on all the AI platforms now, and you can prompt it to help you find all this information in a much faster way than you could previously. I used to do all this manually. Now I use ChatGPT for a lot of it. I feed it as much context as possible. I'm giving it screenshots, reviews. I'm having it research all the competitors, give me the breakdown. I'm feeding it their competitor ads, their longest running ads, the copy, their landing page copy, everything I'm feeding into these into these AI tools. And last, probably the most important, if you can speak directly to your customers, like literally get on the phone with them or in a Zoom call, or hear directly from them in the form of a survey, that is some of the most potent information that you can get, because you're going to hear it right from them, right? And you may think that you know your market, right? But unless you've done this research, you probably don't know as much as you think that you do. And no market stands still, okay? It's always changing. There's always new people entering the market. There's people leaving the market. There's new problems that arise. It's not a static thing. So this is not something that you can just do once and be done. You have to always be kind of staying on top of this. And you're going to discover new angles, new reasons why, new headlines that work, new images that work inside of an ad. Like, this stuff is crucial. So don't be lazy. There's a lot of work that goes into an ad. And like I said, most people aren't going to do this. Most people aren't going to do this. So the goal ultimately is to know your customers more than they know themselves. Okay. So that is what I wanted to say about market research. You have the guide there for you. Let's move on to some basic principles. All right. Basic principles. People care about themselves. Okay, point blank. People care about themselves. So avoid making ads that say, buy from us because we are a small business, family-owned business. We use, recyclable materials. We donate this. Sometimes those little causes can be a little tag that you can add onto your ads, but it cannot be the main appeal. People don't care about your business, okay? They care about themselves. They care about, how is this product going to make my life better? How is this product going to change me into the person that I want to be, or achieve the goal that I want to achieve, or remove the pain that I'm feeling, okay? So it's all about them. So when you're writing your ads, make sure that you are focusing on them. And don't write in such a way where you're just talking to like a large audience of people. It's like you're writing to one person. You're speaking to one person, okay? So be very careful with that. Next is the physical product versus the functional product, okay? Very interesting thing to think about, right? If we take this iPhone, good example, right? The physical product is going to be the glass, the metal, all the buttons, the camera lenses, the little light on the back. These are the physical attributes of the iPhone. But the functional product is you can connect with the entire world, you can build businesses, you can stay connected with your friends and family, you can tell the time, you can, there's so many functions, right? Benefits. So it's important that you focus your advertising on the functional product, the benefits to the person, okay? How is it going to change their life? How is it going to improve their situation? How is it going to solve a problem for them is so crucial. So that's not to say that you have to completely ignore the physical product, meaning like the physical attributes of it, but it's not typically the best selling point, is my point. It's more so the functionality or what it does for the person that's going to sell the product. Okay, so you can include some physical attributes if quality is something that really is a standout or a differentiator. But like I said, focus on those benefits. We already talked about angles, right? It's crazy how like one headline to another, you can have absolutely different results, like dramatically different results. One angle to another, dramatically different results. One image to another, dramatically different results. So don't forget about that. Your job with all this market research and all this testing is to find what is that angle that is going to bring me the most economic benefit, right? Bring me the most money. I've seen it so many times. I'm advertising this one product over and over, and I'm just advertising it in the wrong way. And then I finally find the angle that is the most scalable, that resonates with the most people, right? You ever wonder why some of your ads, like they last for like a month and then they fizzle out? Well, maybe that message wasn't that scalable. That could be the problem, right? You need to find an angle that resonates with millions of people or hundreds of thousands of people, right? And that is what's going to give you an ad that lasts for months or years or several years. It's truly a badge of honor to have an ad that runs for 6 months, a year, 2 years. Like that is the goal. The goal is to run ads for as long as you can, okay? Get every last drop out of those ads. Yeah, that's something that I've been reading in these books, and they even say like many ads have been like prematurely turned off because they think that there's creative fatigue or people are getting tired of the ads. But as long as it's still profitable, as long as it's still working, you keep running that ad, okay? And back to the angles, right? What's the big idea? Ogilvy says like your ad needs to have a big idea, right? So again, try not to just like make it all generalities, and you have to have a specific angle that you're targeting and be very clear, be very specific to that big idea, okay? Next is going to be the Life Force 8. This is very interesting. I found this one in Cashvertising. Okay, it's by Drew Eric Whitman, and he says this: human beings are biologically programmed with the following 8 desires. Number 1, survival, enjoyment of life, and life extension. 2, enjoyment of food and beverages. 3, freedom from fear, pain, and danger. 4, sexual companionship. 5, comfortable living conditions. 6, to be superior, winning, keeping up with the Joneses. 7, care and protection of loved ones. And 8, social approval. Who could argue with these things? We all want them, don't we? But in how many of your ads do you openly use and appeal to one or more of the Life Force 8? So he says, when you create an advertising appeal based on any of these Life Force 8, you tap into the power of Mother Nature herself. You tap into the very essence of what makes humans tick. So it's such an interesting concept, right? If you can tap into some of these life forces, right? Into these like biologically programmed aspects, you're going to get a response, okay? So something that's very interesting I want you to keep in mind, see how you can actually tap into these, right? Next is the 9 learned wants. So these are like secondary to the life force 8, but they're also very interesting, right? So the next 9 that are also very important are, number 1, to be informed, right? Humans love novelty. They love to know what's the latest thing happening. Number 2 is curiosity. That one is super powerful. You see this all the time, like on Instagram or on ads in general. It's like, you know, I tried this one trick and it did X, Y, Z, right? And then it leaves you, oh, what was the one trick? Cleanliness of body and surroundings. Number 4, efficiency. Number 5, convenience. Number 6, dependability or quality. Number 7, expression of beauty and style. Number 8, economy or profit. And number 9 is bargains. So these secondary wants are strong, but they don't come close to the life force 8. But if you can weave these in, they can be very powerful as well. Okay. Last point that I want to make from this book is people buy from emotion and justify with logic. Okay. So if you can force an emotional response by touching on a basic want or need, you're going to drive that person to take action. Okay. So very important. Try to weave in emotion. Storytelling is very powerful for this, to weave emotion, but if you can weave emotion into this, you're going to have a much better time with your ads, right? Much better results. Last point on basic principles. All ads have to overcome a believability problem, right? Especially in today's day and age. Let's talk about like today, 2025, right? There is just a believability problem across the board. There's a trust, collapse basically, right? Because we've been advertised to for our whole lives, right? I think the average person is exposed to a couple thousand advertisements a day, right? And many of these advertisements are over-promising and under-delivering. So we're naturally very skeptical. So we have to overcome that believability problem by flooding our ads with proof, social proof, basically prove that your product or service can do the thing that it's promising to do. And we have a lot of techniques for that. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but just understand that all ads have this problem, okay? And it's up to you to help your customers kind of bridge that gap and overcome that believability problem and take that leap of faith and try your product. And if your product is good, you're going to have people coming back more and more. So that's super important. Okay, now on to levels of awareness and sophistication. Now this is a little bit dense, okay, but stick with me. My point is not to dive into every single little detail about this. I just want to make you aware of it so you can do some more research on your own later, okay? So there's levels of awareness to this, and we'll look at it here together. So going from the most aware at the top to the least aware. So this is referring to the market. How aware are your potential customers of your product, your service, the problems that your product solves, and so on. So here it says, number 1, the most aware. The customer knows of your product, knows what it does, and knows he wants it, right? That is by far the easiest way to advertise something, right? So I'm just looking through here in breakthrough advertising, just so I can follow along with you guys here and make sure that I don't miss anything. In this case, it's very effective to just be straight to the point. Here's your headline, this is the product, this is the price, people are going to buy it. Simple as that, okay? Next is number 2, the customer knows of your product but doesn't yet want it. Okay, so that is the next level down, right? And if this happens, here's your approach. And this is where the great bulk of advertising happens. Eugene says, Here you're dealing with a product which is known, which has established a brand name, which has already linked itself with an acknowledged public desire and has proven that it's satisfied that desire. In this case, your headline is faced with one of 7 tasks: to reinforce your prospect's desire for your product, to sharpen his image of the way your product satisfies that desire, to extend his image to where and when your product satisfies that desire, to introduce new proof, details, documentation of how well your product satisfies that desire, to announce a new mechanism in that product to enable it to satisfy that desire even further, to announce a new mechanism in your product that eliminates former limitations, or to completely change the image or the mechanism of that product in order to remove it from the competition of other products claiming to satisfy the same desire. Okay? So that is level 2. Level 3 is the prospect either knows or recognizes immediately that he wants the product, but he does not yet know that there is a product, your product, that will do it for him. Okay, so that's the 3rd level down. And that is introducing new products into the market. So the 3-step process for this one is name the desire and or its solution in your headline, prove that the solution can be accomplished, and show that the mechanism of that accomplishment is contained in your product. Okay, so this is the essence of the 3rd stage. Now the 4th stage is the prospect has not a desire but a need. He recognizes the need immediately, but he doesn't yet realize the connection between the fulfillment of that need and your product. Okay, so here you start by naming the need and or its solution in your headline. Then you dramatize the need so vividly that the prospect realizes just how badly he needs the solution, and then present your product as the inevitable solution. Okay, so that is the way that we address level 4. And now level 5 is how to open up a completely unaware market. So this says the most difficult. The prospect is either not aware of his desire or his need, or he won't honestly admit it to himself without being led into it by your ad. Or the need is so general and amorphous that it resists being summed up in a single headline, or it's a secret that can't be verbalized. Okay, so this is the hardest stage here. Okay, to sum it up then, a headline which will work to a market in one stage of awareness will not work to market in another stage of awareness, nor will it work even to a market in which it has been successful once the market has passed on to a new stage of awareness. Okay, so as we discussed, every market is not a static thing. It's something that moves. It's something that is always changing. And so you need to identify like what level of awareness is your market in, and then kind of tailor your approach to that. So I feel like a lot of people can really get in the weeds with this and just be like kind of get confused with this and funnels. Is it middle funnel, bottom of funnel? Are they aware, unaware? I personally try to make my ads so clear that it kind of goes through all the phases. Like it would address every person in every stage of the awareness kind of continuum. So yeah, don't get lost in the weeds on this. I just wanted to make you aware of this. So let's continue. Next is going to be levels of sophistication, right? So how sophisticated are your potential customers? So here, starting from the top, is going to be the least sophisticated. So that means you are first to market. So in this case, you're introducing something completely new. So the market doesn't know anything about it or you. So you need to be simple, direct, and just prove that it works. And that's it. Very simple. Now, if you're second to market, right, then you need to take the claim that's working, whatever angle that your competitor is using, and enlarge it. You know, make it more, dramatize it, make it more intense. Now, the third level of sophistication is where the market has heard all the claims, right, and they don't believe the ads anymore. Well, if that happens, then you need to highlight a new mechanism. And when I say a new mechanism, I mean the way that the product accomplishes the goal, okay? The way that it actually does the thing that it says it does, right? So if you can show a new way that something solves a problem, people will believe it again. It's like, oh, this is new, this is different, right? And they'll believe it again. Now, number 4, which is the next level of sophistication past that, is if a competitor has created a new mechanism, now you're going to have to enlarge that new mechanism. Again, dramatize it, make it even more intense. And then last is reviving a dead product. Okay, so if this is the point where people have heard everything under the sun, they just don't even want to deal with, your product, your business, anything, right? They want out. Well, in that case, you need to identify with the prospect. And an example of this is my niche, right? It's working with brands that brands or agency owners, brands or business owners that have been burned by agencies, for example, right? They don't even want to hear about, my guarantee, my offer, how much ROAS I can get them, whatever. They don't want to hear that. What they want to hear is that I identify with their position, that I understand what they've been through. Empathy, right? If I can identify with them and say, hey, I get it, right? I understand that you were promised X, Y, and Z and you didn't get it, but here's why I'm different. Or here's what I was able to accomplish for my clients, or, you know what I mean? So that is going to be the way that I get my foot in the door. And so if you're dealing with a level 5 market, it's, again, the most difficult. And it's really an appeal to the actual person or that you're trying to talk to. So these are the levels of sophistication. Again, don't get in the weeds on this. I just wanted to make you aware of it. And you can do some more reading later on this if you want to. All right, next, we're going to get into headlines. Okay. On average, 5 times as many people read the headlines as the body copy. All right, you know this. You do this yourself. You look through magazines, you read the headlines, you look through Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Google, whatever. You're reading the headlines. How many times have you been sent an article from a friend and you're like, wow, this is crazy. And they're like, oh yeah, I just read the headline. Like they didn't even read the article, right? So, I'm guilty of that as well. So it just proves my point that like the headline is so important. And when I say headline, what do I mean? So if we're talking in the context of meta ads, I'm talking about the first sentence of the primary text in the ad level, the headline field, the text on a static image, or the first 3 seconds of a video, right? That's what I would consider a headline. Okay, and the purpose of the headline is to grab attention, to stop the scroll. It's to select the correct audience. Okay, so we're not just trying to grab everybody's attention. We're trying to grab the correct attention, the attention of our target audience, of our target customer. And then the last purpose of the headline is to keep them reading. Basically, the headline, its goal is to get you to read the next sentence. And the goal of the next sentence is to get them to read the third sentence. And so on and so forth. You have to get them to read the whole ad. Because we first need to get people to read or watch before we can get them to buy. Right? If you lose them at the headline, they read the headline and they go, it's not for me. They keep scrolling. It's over. It's gone. You lost them. You're not getting them back. So it's so important that you grab attention, you select your audience with your headline, and you get them to keep reading. Okay, and we have various techniques for that. But this is the point of headlines. And I would say, like, if there's an 80-20 rule, this is going to be the thing that brings 80% of the results. Okay, focus in on your headlines. Spend the most amount of time on your headlines. If you optimize for your headlines, you will see a dramatic improvement in your ads. I guarantee you that. Okay, next, practical headlines tips. So you can promise the reader a benefit. Okay, this is something that Ogilvy says. If you promise the reader a benefit and you lead with the biggest benefit, people are going to read it, right? It's like, damn, if I read this, whatever this ad is, like I might be able to improve my life. I might be able to solve a problem, right? So lead with the biggest benefit and you are going to have strong headlines right from the beginning. Use curiosity, right? That's back to those 9 learned wants that we talked about earlier. Curiosity is super powerful, right? If you can like promise a benefit, but make it in such a way where they have to read the rest of the ad to achieve that benefit or to get it, by all means, right? It's super important. I like to keep my headlines around 11 words, okay? Short headlines are fine as long as they convey the message, they're clear, they select the audience, they grab attention, and they motivate somebody to keep reading. The shorter the headline, the more readership. The longer the headline gets, the less readership you get. It's okay to have a headline that's longer than 11 words, but I found, and from what Ogilvy says, 11 words is kind of that sweet spot. So it's worked really well for me. And last, we talked about the different areas in meta ads where we like to optimize for. So again, that's the first sentence of the primary text. I do 11 words, and then I do a line break. So it's just boom, that's the headline. It's the headline field, obviously. Those tend to be shorter. Those tend to be like 3 to 5 words, since they have to fit in a small placement. And then it's the text on the static image, and it's the first 3 seconds of the video or the hook, right? Ogilvy says, when you have written your headline, you have spent 80 cents of your dollar. Think about that. If one of the best advertisers in the world said that, you have to take it to heart. So again, optimize for your headlines. I have inside the school community, I have inside a classroom and resources, copywriting resources, powerful headline starters, okay? These are some of the starters from the Copywriters Handbook by Robert Bly, Cashvertising, Breakthrough Advertising. Okay, these are really, really amazing templates that you can use to make good headlines. So if you want, you can feed this into ChatGPT and say, use this as inspiration, and it will help you make some good headlines. So definitely take a look at this. I use this every day for myself. Okay. Next. Clear writing is essential, okay? It's like if you're not clear in your ads, you're going to have a really hard time selling anything. I can't tell you how many ads I've seen where it's just like, what is this selling? What are we talking about here? Like we can't do that. We have to be as clear as possible. So I recommend that you write at a 7th or 8th grade reading level, right? That's the average reading level in the United States. You may be very smart. You may like to use big words. You may have an ego and you want to use big words, okay, and show how smart you are, but that does not work. That does not work. That being clever does not work. Being funny generally does not work unless you're very funny, okay? Unless there's people that can do it, right? Some of my clients are some of the funniest guys I've ever met. They're the true classic guys. They do it like masters, okay? But most people don't have that. So just be very careful. I'd rather you be clear than to try to be clever or use puns. Don't use puns. Most people don't understand puns or metaphors, analogies. Like these things just tend to not work in advertising. Okay. Use simple words. Use super simple words. Okay. 7th or 8th grade reading level. Nothing, no big words, no SAT words, none of that. Okay. Short paragraphs, right? Only a few sentences in a paragraph. Use line breaks in between paragraphs. So I don't want to see a big chunk of writing. It needs to be a couple sentences in a paragraph, line break, a couple sentences in a paragraph, and they should logically make sense together, okay? One interesting point from Cashvertising is the first time somebody uses your product is in their mind, okay? So if you can use very descriptive language, right? Use a lot of adjectives, right? It's going to make a big difference in your writing. People are going to be able to imagine the product in their hands, right? So try to use some descriptive language. Drew Eric Whitman, he says, direct mental movies, right? No matter what, there's a mental movie happening in their head when they're reading your ad. So you're the director. You don't want them to be the director. You don't want them to make up some, reason why they don't want to buy it. You need to direct that mental movie. So use like very descriptive language, use storytelling, direct that movie, and make the product or service sound and look in their head as good as possible. And you're going to have really good results. Okay. Lastly is specificity. Specificity beats generalities every time. Okay, so be as specific as possible. So I don't want to see anybody write 10,000 plus verified customers. Okay, that could be false, right? It could be when it's a round number like that, people don't believe it, right? But when you say 11,243 verified customers, right? That means you're either completely lying or you're telling the truth. It's oddly specific, right? And obviously we have to tell the truth in advertising, otherwise, it's against the law. But it just beats, it's so much better when it's specific. It's more believable. People believe it. So be as specific as you can. Call out a specific target audience. Tell them specifically what to do next. Be as specific as possible. I don't want vagueness in the ad whatsoever. Okay. We got about 13 minutes, and we're on time to complete this in under an hour. So, short versus long copy. All right, Ogilvy says it in his book. Short copy is for amateurs. So, for those of you that are watching this and you love short copy, the best copywriters in the world all agree short copy is for amateurs. You have less opportunity to sell somebody. There's people that like to know a lot of details. They like to read. So you're alienating those people. When there's only a short amount of copy, it's like there's not much to say. So medium and long form copy tends to outperform short copy almost every time. There's some exceptions with like luxury brands and stuff like that where they've built, their persona or their brand over many, many years, and they like to be brief. I've seen it work. Okay, I'm not saying that every piece of copy needs to be long, but you need to tell the full story. Okay, you need to give all the reasons why somebody should buy it. You need to be as persuasive as possible. You need to give yourself a chance to be persuasive, right? Ogilvy also says like writing short copy is like playing craps with your client's money or with your own money. Right, you're like betting that those 10 words or whatever, 25 words, is going to be the right words to make it work. But if you write long copy, you give yourself way more chance to be persuasive, to convince somebody to buy. Okay, there's some products that are very self-explanatory that don't require you to write long copy, but in general, it tends to be worth writing long copy, especially for like info products or products that you can't tangibly see. You need long copy. One heuristic here is length implies strength. So when you see something that's just like a big, long copy, right? Lazy people or just people in general will say, wow, they have a lot to say about this. It must be good, right? This is just like a little mental shortcut that people take, right? If there's a lot to say about it, it must be good, right? This is so true. Also, the more you tell, the more you sell. This is a saying in the copywriting community, and it's just so true, okay? You have more chances to persuade. And again, going back to imagine if you have somebody standing in front of you that's half sold, what would you say, right? You wouldn't just say, buy now and get 20% off. You would explain all the reasons, all the benefits, everything. So make sure that you incorporate that. Long doesn't mean boring, okay? And long doesn't mean long for the sake of it being long, okay? It should be long for a reason. It should tell all the reasons why. It should be persuasive. It should be entertaining. It should be fun to read, okay? It should keep the person reading, wanting to read, engaged. And then it should ultimately tell them exactly what to do next, which is buy your product, take action. So, err on the side of long copy, okay? All right, Copywriters Toolbox. We're going to talk about various tools and I'm just going to show you quickly. Okay, we'll dive into this more in the group, but number one is bandwagon, right? Give people a bandwagon to jump onto. So loved by 14,294 bicyclists, right? If you're a bicyclist, you're like, wow, that's a lot of bicyclists that love this product. If it's good for that many people, it's probably good for me too, right? That bandwagon is a very useful tool. This toolbox, this is not something that you have to weave into every single one of your ads. Like, you don't have to use every one of these techniques, but you can use them like as tools. Like if the ad calls for it, or if the situation calls for it, you throw it in. It's very useful. Okay, so that doesn't mean, like I said, you have to use every single one every time. You can just kind of pick and choose. It's like a toolbox, right? You have various tools. You pick the right tool for the job. Okay, so that's the bandwagon. Rhetorical questions. This one's really interesting. It makes the person that's reading ask the question in their head and answer, and then that kind of gets them engaged, right? So do your meta ads work for 24 hours and then stop? Right? You've thought of that in your head before, and now you just thought of it again, right? So this is very interesting. This is a powerful tool. Social proof. You guys all know this, right? As seen on Shark Tank. Wow, this was on Shark Tank. Like, must be good. Incorporating social proof is very important in your ads if you can do it. Reciprocation, right? Reciprocation is interesting. Like, for example, in my case, I have a free Q&A call where I basically just help people for 25 minutes. I don't sell anything. But at the end of the call, they're like, wow, this guy helped me so much. I want to help him back. I want to give him something. Like, if you have a neighbor that comes by and gives you something, right, you feel that urge inside to give something back. And this is a psychological tool that you can use in your ads and in your landing page. You can give a free thing, and then people are going to want to return the favor. Okay. Transfer of credibility. So if you showcase credible people in your ads, or something like this, right? #1 dentist recommended toothbrush, right? Wow, dentist recommended, it must be good. It's a transfer of credibility, right? If you associate yourself with credible people, you in effect get that credibility as well. Authority. Use authority in your ads, right? So Harvard researchers agree, right? Well, damn. If the Harvard researchers agree, this must be true or must be good. Curiosity. Can you believe this one small change to my landing page tripled my conversion rate? That's gonna make people be like, wow, what was that one thing that he did? And it's gonna make them read. It's gonna draw them in. Testimonials is super useful, okay? Always put them in quotations. It makes it more believable. It needs to be a real quote, guys. An absolute no-brainer. Best meta ads group out there. Mark E. So this is what I like to do. I like to say first name, last initial. Just makes it more believable, right? And it feels like a quote because it's in quotes. You can sprinkle these in. You can use these as headlines. Very powerful. Guarantees, okay? Guarantees are super useful. In my case, I have a 1-year money-back guarantee, no questions asked, right? That shows confidence in your product. It's also long enough where people don't keep that mental oh, I got 7 days to return this, or I got 14 days to return this. They're just like, well, if at any point over the next year I don't like this, I can return it. It gives them comfort, and it implies confidence in the product. And it also helps you stand out amongst your competitors. For example, in my school community, I have the longest guarantee out of any school community I've ever seen. Okay, I do that for a reason. So try to give the longest and strongest guarantee that you can, that you're comfortable with, and that you can actually fulfill. Okay. Free. Okay, free is a superpower word that you can add into your ads. It draws the eye. So anytime you can use free, definitely use that. That reminds me, numbers also tend to grab the eye. So when you incorporate numbers into your ads, it grabs the eye. But if you use the word free, it's going to get a higher response. People love free things. Little caveat here is that it may draw people that only want free things. So be careful. So here's an example. Get a free gift with your purchase, right? Or get a free audit, or do a free Q&A call, or buy one, get one free, right? Free is such a strong word. If you can incorporate it into your ads, you're going to have better results. Scarcity. You guys know this one. It's used constantly, right? While supplies last. There's a scarce amount of this thing. product, service, limited spots available. So you can use this to drive urgency, to drive like, oh, I got to get it before it's gone. And that leads us to urgency, which is sale ends at midnight, right? You need to give the person the reason to act now, right? You have to strike while the iron's hot. Why? You spent all this effort doing market research, crafting an amazing headline. You've got them reading, right? So you need to now take them over the threshold, over the edge to take action. That's what we're trying to do here. Okay, and that leads us to the last one. Tell them what to do next. Okay, so you have to strike while the iron is hot, like I said. So have a very clear call to action in your ads. Very specific as well. Click learn more to order yours while supplies last. You see I was specific. I tied it to the call to action button that's going to be in the ad, learn more. And I also added scarcity and urgency. Order yours while supplies last. Right? So try to be as specific as possible. Try to make it as simple as possible for them to buy as well. Right? If there's a lot of steps that they have to go through, you're going to lose them. Every click, you lose 50% of people, more or less. So try to make it like a 1 click or 2 clicks max after they click on the ad. Right? Also, sometimes it helps to set expectations on what happens next, right? If you explain to them, like if you have an info product or something like that, it's helpful to explain what happens next. Next, you're going to get an email from me with an invite to a meeting. I'm going to basically help answer all your questions for 25 minutes. And then at the end, I'm going to explain to you what I offer, right? People are disarmed by that. Little fun thing, everybody reads a PS for some reason. You can see down here, PS, you read it, right? And then in this graphic, you can see how clear I'm being here. Click here to get instant access. Couldn't be more clear, and I'm pointing to it, right? So at the end of all your ads, you have to have a very clear call to action in your static images, in your copy, in your landing page, in your videos. Tell them what to do next, okay? And lastly, here's a little framework that you can use to start, writing better copy, right? It's I don't follow like a perfect structure every time, right? I start with the market research, and then I kind of just like use that information to guide me as to what I think would compel people to read. So here's the AIDA Framework. So A is attention, so you got to grab the attention of your target audience. You got to interest them enough to keep them reading. You have to build up desire and minimize anxiety. And then you have to get them to take action. Tell them what to do next. Little point here about desire and anxiety. Okay, there are two like opposing forces that are happening whenever somebody's considering buying your product, right? There's the desire, right, that's building as you're persuading them in your copy. And then there's the anxiety that is kind of like pushing them away from buying your product, okay? So the goal here is to amplify the desire as much as you can and minimize the anxiety as much as you can with risk reversal, guarantees, explaining everything, FAQs, those types of things. So remember that there's those two opposing forces, and you need to do your best to maximize that desire and minimize that anxiety. And this is a great framework for you to start writing your ads. So just for my resources, guys, this is where basically all this information came from, as well as my own experience. I highly recommend that you read these books. All right, you guys, that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in diving deeper into any of these topics or bouncing ideas off of me or showing me your creative, seeing how we can improve your ads, I highly recommend that you join my school community called Meta Ads Mastery. We have a 7-day free trial and a 1-year money-back guarantee, so there is absolutely no risk for you to join. So click the link in the description of this video and I'll see you on the inside. Take care.